Simba. Okie dokie. So I think we're getting ready to get going. Welcome to this session 4 of the mini masterclass series, learning, all about learning. And we had some fun and games yesterday. I was quite busy doing a morning and an afternoon session as a locum, and the tech didn't really work at lunchtime or in the evening when I had to go. So that's life. Life happens. So the idea is to keep going, isn't it? Not give up. So I'm just pleased to be able to share this session 4 of the Learning Mini Masterclass series with you today. So you might be watching on Facebook on the page, or in the Webinars for GPs group, or on YouTube, and welcome. I hope you're having a good day. It's actually Saturday at lunchtime. We've got Simba, our kitten, may make an appearance. He's sort of over there on the window ledge, but he may well make an appearance. So let's crack on. Where are we? Oh, there we go. And slideshow. Okay, just a reminder of what we're going to look at. I'm going to share a recording, a snippet, teaching interleaving and number 8, teach, part of the learning tips, 10 tips altogether. Okay, apologies for that.
Phrase for interleaving is...
Apologies for that. We weren't sharing the video, were we? So that wasn't clever. This is what we're going to cover, and interleaving and teaching. So let's go with the video again.
Okay, we're moving on to number 7, and I'm keeping going quite fast. You'll be able to pause the recording and rewind if you need to, but we've got a lot to get through. And so number 7, interleaving. So this is whether you do topics in blocks or whether you interleave the topics. So another phrase for interleaving is varied practice, and we see this in sport a lot, where researchers studied the best way for, say, cricketers, batsmen, or in America, baseball players, to learn to cope with balls thrown or bowled in different ways. And they learn best when the delivery of the ball is varied. If you bowl the same type of ball delivery repeatedly, the batsman can appear to improve, but that's a fluency illusion. You want to create desirable difficulty, so vary what's coming. In the same way, we like to vary the topics week to week with the webinars that we offer, so that we tend not to do a block of the same topic all in a row. We mix it up week in, week out, and that actually reflects what happens in your general practice. In a typical surgery, you're going to get all different. You don't get all the heart patients coming in one morning and all the respiratory patients coming in another day. They're all mixed up. So we like to mix up the topics of the weekly CPD webinars. Okay, so yeah, so when you're mixing up the learning, it may feel worse than doing the same topic all in a block, but that's because our mind is wanting to keep us more comfortable, and that's a normal human nature. So varied practice leads to higher performance. studies with students solving maths problems. If you repeatedly solve a block of the same type of problem and then later a whole block of different problems, you don't perform as well where the problems were. You don't perform as well where you've been studying the same type of problem in a block compared to students where the problems were all mixed up. I hope that I made sense of that. And I mentioned our daily general practice is always varied, and the fact that, you know, with webinars for GPs, we deliberately mix up the topics to give varied learning. So in your CPD efforts, you can vary your learning, whether you're attending a webinar live, whether you're watching a recording, whether you're downloading the audio file and listening to that on the go. You can download a PDF of the slides and look at those, use those to learn and recall. So you can vary your learning style within the webinars for GPs resources. And if you're doing your own study, nothing to do with webinars, obviously you can vary your practice. So varying your practice doesn't feel good, but it's very desirable. Okay. Okay. Number 8, teaching. Teaching is the next key to efficient and effective learning. So see if you can teach what you've just learnt. It's a really great way to check that you've learnt it. So Barbara Oakley calls this explain it as if I'm a 5-year-old. So can you explain what you just learnt in simple language? So my wife often calls me out on this after a webinar. I'll go out and have a cup of tea with her, and she'll say, okay, tell me what you learnt. And then I have to work really hard because I've been hosting the webinar. I have to sit and work really hard and just remember some salient points about the structure, what we covered, some of the key learnings. And it's actually, I can find myself getting annoyed because I just want to switch off. But actually what my wife's doing is actually, by getting me to teach and explain stuff to her, that's actually helping me. Charles Darwin used this technique while he was studying and writing out his theory, The Origin of the Species. He would imagine someone coming into his office, and he'd stop what he was doing, put his pen down, and then try and explain in the simplest possible terms his theory. So if you can do that, that is fantastic. If you can't do that after a spell of learning, then you're revealing the gaps that you need to fill in. So that's a challenge I would put to you after any bit of learning. See if you can teach what you've just learned to somebody. Another word for this is called elaboration, and slightly it's linked to this. So put an idea that you're studying into your own words and then connect it to other ideas that you already know. So elaboration. Okay, putting an idea that you're studying into your own words and then connect it to other ideas that you already know. And by doing this, you will strengthen the memory of that new piece of information. So teaching is a study tool. It helps you learn and embed. Okay, I like the reflection of that. I think that's quite clever on the screen there.
Okay, so interleaving, varying the topics, and and teaching. And I've been joined on this live session by Simba. Simba has come to say hello. He's, what is he now? About 4 months old. So Simba likes learning. He's learning every day, trying out new things, exploring, and he enjoys his learning. Simba, can't go through there. So tell me, put something in the comments. What do they say? Don't work with animals on live shows. Put something in the comments below. What have you learned? Do you do interleaving? Do you vary your subject topics when you're doing CPD, like we do on the weekly webinars? Different topic each week, generally, to vary things. And do you teach? Do you ever teach colleagues, or if you've been to a conference or you've been on a webinar, whether it's ours or somebody else's, do you then share that with colleagues and try and teach something that you've learned? And often people have a realization when they start to teach. They think, oh, actually, I didn't know this as well as I thought. So there's a challenge for you. If you haven't taught something that you've learned recently on a CPD session, I challenge you to teach it. Let's unhook you, and you will actually learn. You'll remember a lot more of what you learned. I'm going to sign off now because he's going to chew this cable. So I'll see you again for session 5, the last 2 sections, and leave a like or a comment, whether it's for Simba or me. Bye for now. Bye for now.